Hi. So I'm Radosav. I work with Younify with their development team. I've been there for 5 years, and Jelena is actually the one who trained me. And now I'm at a position where I have to train someone. And this is what that talk is about. 5 years ago, when I got to Younify, I actually came there as a volunteer. And I didn't know anything. I could barely understand HTML and CSS, let alone PHP. I tried to install PHP at home, actually, and I couldn't set up XAMPP. I didn't know what a port was, and I didn't understand that Skype was actually using port 80. So that's why Apache wouldn't start. And when I got to Younify, anyone that talked to me for more than 5 minutes instantly knew that I didn't know anything. But they decided to help me out anyway. So Big Dule, who doesn't work for Younify anymore, came to me and explained what an AMP stack was. But he explained it verbally. So I didn't know anything, so I didn't understand him. But there's a reason we call him Big Dule. It's because he's a big, scary guy. And I was too scared to ask him to repeat himself or explain it further. So I tried to listen to him and remember as much as I could so I could Google it later. Of course, that didn't work. So after about half an hour of time wasting, I went to him again. And I asked him to explain. He didn't want to explain, so he came over and showed me. He sat down next to me, took my keyboard, opened up a terminal in full screen, and he started typing. Now, I remember thinking, what's he gonna do with a text box? Because I didn't know what a terminal was, I didn't know how it was used. All I knew is that it could display some text. 10 minutes later, he turns to me and says, okay, now you have a working AMP stack. And I was looking at him and thinking, okay, so he just did something in 10 minutes in a terminal that I couldn't do at home with a GUI. So I was fascinated with that. It was very interesting to me what he did with the terminal. So I got very interested. And that's one of my first points. Or not. Okay, there we go. The first point is don't just tell them what to do. Show them. Get them interested. Show them how cool it can be to program or to code. Now, my example didn't have anything to do with Magento. It was a terminal. But if you got the chance to read my bio on the MMRS website, you will see it refer to me as a terminal junkie. And that's actually because 90% of the things I do at work are through a terminal, which annoys my colleagues sitting in the first row because I'm typing all day. I got very interested, and you can do that with Magento as well. For me, the moment I got interested in Magento was the second time I came to Younify to volunteer. That was about a year later. And they gave me a task to copy some CMS data from one website to another, which is an extremely boring task. So I got bored of it very soon, and I decided to write a script that would make it easier, that would just read the data, output it in a format that was easier for me to copy, and then just copy it over. And Sasha, who's sitting in the back row, actually saw me do this. So he came over, and I guess he was interested. He told me, well, you can do that faster. You can write an import. And that's actually the first time I wrote something that had to do with Magento, and it imported the CMS data. And that's what got me interested into Magento. Because I could do something that basically shortened my task, a boring task, and did it for me, basically. And that's what got me interested. However, if you hire a new developer now, you usually won't just hire one guy, and you won't have the 2 hours to sit next to him and explain to him what to do. You're usually going to hire multiple people like we do at Younify, and you won't have time to do that. So, I don't have time to work with each one of them. What now? Well, you have to ask yourself 2 things. What do I want them to do in 6 months? What do I want them to be able to accomplish? Do I want them to run an entire project by themselves, or is it okay if they can just handle daily support tasks? If your answer is the latter, the former, then you should probably consider either hiring a smaller team so you can have more time with them one-on-one, or you can hire someone with a little bit more experience. What do I mean by this? You can hire someone that doesn't necessarily know how to work with Magento, but that knows a little bit about PHP. We can take a look at the tech stack for Magento and Magento 1, and we can see that Magento 1 is a lot simpler than Magento 2 right now. Well, at least as far as the tech is concerned. What should you look for in a developer that doesn't know Magento? Well, my recommendation is that they know a little bit of PHP and that they know a little bit about SOAP. Why? Well, because you can actually give them a very good starter or training program, training task, that will allow them to learn a lot about Magento in a small amount of time. The one-time import project from Magento 1 to Magento 2. Why is it so good? It's so good because it's already been done a million times. Magento 2 has their own version. Well, Magento has their own version. And if you take a look at the store, at the extension store, you'll see that there are a lot of extensions doing this. Why is this good? Well, because a lot of people have already solved most of the problems that can happen during development of this. So anything they run into, they can just do a quick Google search and find a solution for it. Another reason why it's good is because they get to see the structure. They get to see how products are structured in Magento, how they're connected to categories, how they're connected to attributes, or rather how attributes are connected to them. And they have to learn all of this in order to make that import work. Not that. So, of course you can do that. You can show them the project, you can let them do it. It's about 1 week's work, it's not a lot. But if you do this, you might run into a problem. Into a problem I run into very often. It's that a developer comes over to me and tells me, okay, this and this is not working, I don't know how to fix it, and Google is not helping me. So naturally the first thing I do is Google it. I find a solution within 5 minutes of it, and I show them the solution. Now, why didn't that developer find that? The problem is usually that they don't know how to Google. Well, how to Google for Magento issues, at least. So, how do you teach someone to Google? Well, to be honest, I have no idea. I don't know how I learned to Google, when or where I learned to Google, but I have a theory that's working out so far. Whenever someone like that comes over to me, I Google it with them. Whether I know the answer off the top of my head or not, I still Google it with them and search for the answers with them. This has been working so far, and so far a lot of the employees that showed up like that and asked me like that have learned to Google now. I think it's because they get to see an example of the Google syntax we all use. And sometimes you just get bored. You don't want to explain everything to them. And that's actually, Nesh is not here, but that's okay. That's actually what Nesh does. He usually doesn't want to explain something to someone, so he just sends a link like this. Let me Google that for you. Some of you might know it. That's actually okay, because you get to show them how to Google it, and it displays the right solutions. You can usually only do this for simple problems, like the one searched there. And yeah. So that's basically it. If you have any questions, you can ask now, or you can find me at the party or later.
Hi, nice presentation. Where you learned to speak English?
Just watching movies usually. I never learned professionally, if that's what you mean.
It's very good.
Thank you.
Do you find it, so what's the hiring landscape like? I mean, just the rest, you know, I have experience hiring for a shop I used to manage in the States, and I got to the point where we would just literally have to hire, I would hire kids fresh out of college. And I don't know how computer science is elsewhere, and this is maybe 6 or 7 years ago, but, you know, I had to teach them how HTTP worked. You know, it was a lot of remediation. I don't know, I'd be curious to hear what it's like in your experience hiring here, or, you know, working with people who've been hired here.
Well, right now we were hiring up until a week ago. We were trying to find a senior developer to work on the development team with me. However, we couldn't find anyone really at a senior position. I don't know if that's the current market or if it's just generally like that. We even tried to look at other companies, so developers that are already working, but we still weren't able to find anyone that's already at a senior position as far as Magento is concerned.
In my experience, Magento developers are like a rare white elk.
Yeah.
And if I may interject, I would say one of the things that I did enjoy, if I could find a Java developer on the market, they can pick up Magento very quickly.
Oh, that's good to know. Thanks.
Thank you. We have something for you. This is how you look like in the office.
Yeah. Thank you.